Okay, welcome guys. Sorry for the random delay at the beginning of this session. I was just making sure we give everybody enough time. I believe we've got 26 in attendance today through the one stream, which is good. Today's process, or today's session, I should say, it's going to be a little bit different to the norm. And the reason I say that is because usually I prepare some slides to go through more of a step-by-step type of arrangement. But today I wanted to try and tell more of a story than a presentation as such. So why don't I start with myself? Obviously, I've been working in recruitment my entire career. I'm actually sat here on site working as a management consultant, helping a career business or company launch into a new area. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about in today's session is to give you an opportunity to see this from the other perspective. And what I mean by that is in recruitment in general, it's really important that you understand the dynamics of a recruitment business, how they work, and the different types of recruitment agencies and businesses that are out there. So a lot of you guys, whether you're school leavers or you've got experience, or regardless really, you're going to come across different types of agencies, and each agency have got a different reason for them being in the market. So a lot of the time you'll find you get industry experts, and the reason for this is pretty obvious really. To start a recruitment business, you need to stay within a niche, and once you're within that niche, that's how you can then provide good candidates. So rather than going to a recruitment agency or going through recruitment processes, my advice to everybody today is to work proactively. And what I mean by that is, if you think about what a recruitment agency does, what they tend to do is they'll focus on a niche area. So let's just say for the example, we'll say IT web development. And let's say they go even more niche than that, and they just want to supply Java developers. That's, for argument's sake. So what the agency tend to do is they will go and cherry pick the best candidates they can in the space. They'll try and register them, and then they'll try and offer those people to hiring managers who could potentially want to hire those skill sets. So what the recruitment agency actually does is they make lots of approaches, make lots of calls, whether they email resumes to decision makers. But basically, to summarize, they've got a list which they'll call a market map of decision makers, and their day, most days, comprises of contacting the list, introducing their niche candidates to that list, right? And then once they get interviews or they get some interest in their resumes, then they go through that process with their candidates till the candidate's placed. The agencies receive a fee for each successful placement. That motivates them enough to do the position, and the candidates get a new job from the process. So now we know what the bones of a recruitment process looks like. What I'm going to try and explain or get the point across is, if you see a role that's advertised, and then you put your application into that position, you've got to start realizing that you're one of many applications. Now, if you've got a really niche skill set, then you're probably going to come up against maybe hundreds, sometimes thousands of other applications. So the way that process would get filtered is through an application tracking system, along with internal recruiters or just recruiters in general. So what you're basically doing is you're giving yourself the worst possible chance of securing a position because you're up against all of these people. So what I want to talk you through today, and what I'm going to start focusing the sessions a bit more on, is, well, how do we do it the other way? It's a very obvious the way that everybody knows, in the sense of you apply for a job, whether it be advertised on Seek or any job board, LinkedIn, even Facebook these days. Regardless, the process is quite clear. You fill in an application form, you put your life story and evidence on there, and then it's a case of going through that process, application, sending it through, and almost hoping for the best. So the reason I keep going back to get a LinkedIn profile, make sure you're visible on LinkedIn, it's to be on there, and because lots and lots of recruiters use LinkedIn to find people, but mainly it's to build relationships. Now, if you are a candidate that maybe communication, and maybe your first language isn't English, or maybe you just haven't got that depth of local experience, then if you think about it, if you're going to go through that traditional channel of putting your resume in against hundreds or thousands of others, then the chances of you getting struck off straight away, oh, no local experience, next, or communication skills aren't as good as the next applicant, next, it's really hard to go through that process. But if you identify people by using the search functions of Google or LinkedIn, you have a LinkedIn profile, which is basically like a social media page, but for professionals. So I always compared it with Facebook or Weibo or whatever you guys use or are more familiar with. And then, nobody ever gets in any trouble for being honest, especially in Australia. Like, people really appreciate honesty in the business world. So my approach would be to firstly understand and be really clear on the role that you're looking for. So if that role is, you want to work as a administration assistant, and you don't really mind which sector, or you're interested in a certain sector, that's fine. But what you've got to think of, okay, well, who would an admin assistant usually report into? And you can do this practice with any role in any niche. It doesn't make a difference. Once you're really clear on that job title, you now know who the decision makers are within your niche, regardless of what your niche is. Okay, HR manager, HR director is not the decision maker within your niche. So what I mean is, if you work in a role, who would you report into? Who would be your manager, boss, whatever you want to call it? Once you're clear on that job title, that's your step one. That's your start, because you can start building your list from there. So once you're very clear on that, what you can do is, in LinkedIn, regardless to whether it's the free version, the Sales Navigator version, or the Recruiter version, or whatever other version that are out there that charge, there is a function on there that you can run searches on job titles and locations. So rather than following the masses and doing what everybody else does and getting frustrated and getting tired and fed up, what I can do is support you, and I'm happy to run additional sessions, and just on the feedback that I've been taking, I'm happy to run a session on this next week, basically. I'll share my screen. I'll just basically step you through exactly how you do it. But in essence, what I want you all to do is to really seriously consider getting a LinkedIn profile, regardless of how much time you spend online. You're just going to benefit from being on there, because a lot of recruiters search for candidates on LinkedIn. And then what I would like you to do is, once you've got a list of the decision makers within your niche, I think it's really important then to have a think about, okay, well, I want to approach these people, I want to be honest, and I want to give them an idea of my current situation, maybe my background and my history, why I'm in Australia today, what my intentions are, what I'm looking to get out. Because when you approach somebody who's not in the recruitment process, you'll find that a lot of people have got a lot more time to engage with somebody who's looking for work. Now, it seems a little bit backwards and a little bit left field to what everybody will tell you, but it works. So what I'm looking to do in next week's session is give some template LinkedIn connection request emails. So let's say I'm looking to request to this water bottle over here. My LinkedIn profile would send a request to the water bottle's LinkedIn profile. Terrible example. But I only get 300 characters, okay? So I need to summarize what I'm looking to get across. Now, I've been approached in this way in the past, and I know other people that have, where they've received a message from a person who said, this is the reason I'm contacting you, this is my history, this is my current situation, this is what I'm looking for, and I'm wondering whether you can point me in the right direction or you can advise me on who to speak to in your organization or anything along those types of lines. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share some template examples for you guys to use. And what I'd like for you to start thinking is 99% of the world are going to apply one way and go in this direction. I want you to be the 1% going in the other direction. And what we're going to do is start thinking about any sales process, regardless, whether it be recruitment or whatever it be, will be seven stages in the sense of stage one might be the LinkedIn connection. Stage two might be the first message on LinkedIn. Stage three might be an introduction call. Stage four might be a meeting. Stage five might even be an interview. Stage six might be a job offer. So I want everybody to start thinking in this kind of 7 points of contact, where if I get the engagement in 7 different occasions, and by the end of it, I'd be pretty confident that I'll either be in a job interview or I'll be at the end of that sales cycle. Now, some feedback I've had in the past is, oh, but that's long-winded. I'm not sure whether I want to do that. It's going to take a lot of time. It's not going to take as much time as applying for hundreds of jobs and just getting knocked back straight away because you're not a perfect candidate. So you need to appreciate that. So again, I'm going to say, get a LinkedIn profile. Can't stress it anymore. But even if you haven't got a LinkedIn profile, even if it's not within your means to do that, and if it's maybe it's you're looking for a part-time entry-level role, doesn't matter what it is, I just need some money, that's fine as well. The same process can be adopted for this. Now, what I mean by that is, rather than doing the approach on LinkedIn, who has thought of thinking, okay, well, I can do it this way with LinkedIn, but I could also go and turn up. I know COVID and all the rest of it is a little bit restrictive, but having a process of, okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's going to be my end goal, to try and get, ideally an interview or a job offer. So if you put the shoe on the other foot, a recruitment consultant or a recruitment agency is only going to be interested in registering you if you either A, are really niche and have the skill sets to supply to the niche that they concentrate on, or maybe you are a certain person within a certain society that you qualify, and that agency will get funding. So an example I might give is if I'm an Indigenous person who's based in Australia, there's agencies that are paid to place an Indigenous candidate in a role. So I might qualify for it for that reason, you know. So that's what I mean by that. They might have a different demographic that they focus on. There's a lot of agencies that help candidates with a disability, for example. So that might be an example of that. But just be clear that unless you've got a real niche skill set and you're going after a real narrow niche, using a recruitment agency is probably pointless. And that's coming from somebody who's a career recruitment consultant. Now, there are lots of agencies that do your kind of casual work, but that might be shift by shift. And usually what they want to see is some local experience or some current experience, maybe 3 or 4 referees. So if you haven't got that, it might be a waste of your time going down that route, unless you've got a good story and a reason for why you approach those people. I'm just trying to be honest. I think you'll get a lot more success from just understanding, okay, I know what an agency does, I know what that process looks like, I understand that. But instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and focus on this other way, this 1% way. And what I'm going to do is, this is the job title, maybe this job title are the people I want to engage with. And first things first, I'm going to try and build up a list of decision makers. Once I've got my list, I can then start working through that list to start introducing myself and telling my story, in essence. So again, I'm happy to step this out. I'm happy to give templates that you can use and just maybe change your name and tweak so it makes sense, so it's more personal for you. But I do think if you really are serious about finding paid employment, and this is something that you really want, then you have to kind of treat it a bit like a part-time job, you know, like it kind of needs that much attention. And it can be a little bit of a numbers game because especially in the current climate, obviously there's not as many opportunities out there. So to work proactively is even smarter, because you're basically putting yourself in the shop window of the decision makers within your niche, with a view that they'd say, okay, well, we could do with some support. We're not actively recruiting right now. Sure, we'll give you a ring. They might give you a chance, might give you some experience. The other way of approaching the market is to volunteer or offer yourself as an intern. Now, I've worked in internship programs in the past. There's a lot of conditions you need to be aware of. So you can't just go in and join an internship program unless that program has been approved and it's a legitimate program. So you don't want to be putting yourself out there and breaking the Fair Work Australia rules, but you can volunteer or shadow someone for a week. That's completely within the employment guidelines and rules. So it might be a case of saying, look, I'd be keen just to come help, observe. I've got a few days, I can come out and, try and understand kind of your culture and what it is you're looking for, so that when you are looking, I'm going to be on your list, kind of thing. And it might sound like a long, arduous process, and it might sound a bit soul destroying doing it this way. But the feedback I'm getting is 80% of the market right now are struggling to get these niche roles and doing it this way that everybody else is doing, the traditional approach, where it's going to be hard regardless if you've got niche skills, if you're the perfect candidate even for a role. You're still going to struggle right now because there's more candidates, there's record numbers of candidates on the market than there ever has been. So, and that's due to circumstances out of everybody's control. I get that with the COVID thing. But I just want everybody to start thinking about, okay, what can I control? Because everything else is irrelevant. What I can control is I can get my list of decision makers. I can control, I can reach out to these decision makers. I can start building relationships with these people. I can offer myself as a volunteer. I can put myself out there. Now, in the past, you could sign up for networking events, which were free, and you meet like-minded professionals. But unless you're really clear on the job title of the decision maker or the role that you want to move into, then you're just going to go back to square one all the time. You're not going to be 100% clear on the pathway or the niche that you're looking to attract. So I feel that first and foremost, get your resume done. That's important. Step two, get your cover letter done. You have to do that. They're like your keys, to get in the front door. Once you're in that front door, it's really important that you start looking at how are you going to get into that paid employment room. And I feel that to pick one niche or one role, regardless, even if it's entry level, even if you don't need any or very little experience for that, doesn't matter. Decide on what that is, be clear on that, understand what the job titles of the decision makers of that job title are going to be. And then what I want you to do is start running searches on LinkedIn on how to filter. So you basically go connections, job title, location, search. Now, if you're new to LinkedIn and you haven't got many connections, it's not going to find that many people for you because it's kind of based on a network, the way it works. But that's okay. Google will pretty much give you the result that you're looking for anyway. So the workaround that would be, okay, so this is the job title I'm looking for. These are the types of organizations I'll be looking at because that job title sits in that type of organization. So an example might be, I don't know, a bar person. Okay, great. So you want to work in a bar. Okay, so there's one qualification you need to get, that's for sure. Your responsibility, I forget what it's actually called, but yeah, basically there's a ticket you need. Okay, I'll get that. Okay, now I'm ready to go. Okay, so I need to focus on bar managers. Okay, who are all of the bars in that local area where I can walk to or within the location I'm looking for? Great. Okay, let's start doing Google searches on bar manager, that name, bar manager, that name. You'll be amazed at how much information is stored on Google just by doing a simple search. Then you've got your list. Whilst you're doing that process, you can then put the details in, you can put the telephone, you can, start building a little spreadsheet for yourself with the telephone number you found, email address, and then on the other side of the spreadsheet, you can have 1 to 7, and every time you've made an approach to that person, you tick the number 1. Okay, I've sent a connection, tick. I've had a response, tick. I've now sent an email, tick. Okay, didn't get a response, I'll do a follow-up email, tick. And what you'll find is by having a visual, you'll start getting a lot more motivated for the cause because you'll be looking at it, you'll be thinking, oh, hang on a minute. I can look at my spreadsheet, I can see these are up to 4, so why don't I go to them first, follow them ones up, then move backwards to the next one. And again, this isn't going to be easy. This isn't something that's just going to be a magic switch and it happens. But if you do it with consistency, you'd definitely be able to start seeing some results. So I think that's the key message for today. Just be really clear on the types of decision makers or the job titles of the decision makers that you are looking to build relationships with, because once you're clear on that, everything else will start to fall into place. So again, these were supposed to be bi-weekly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to run another session same time but next Wednesday, and it's literally to break that down. So what I'd be keen to hear, what I'd be keen for is maybe some examples of types of jobs or types of people that are looking for work. And then what I can do in real time is I can start putting these templates up and I'll save them all onto my my web page just under the career coaching banner. And And I think if we can start getting our LinkedIn profiles up to speed, and we can start looking at getting the lists of people, then I believe that we'll be in a position to start approaching the market with, and I'm hoping that from this phase, we'll start to get some interest. We'll start to be at the stage where we need to start preparing to go meet these people, whether it be online or whether it be face to face. There's going to be, the next stage after here is being able to prepare and have all the right things and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. So, bit of a story one, bit of a, it's not really something that I can put slides to. I don't feel. It's more of a sit down and just appreciate where we are at right now. Ask yourself a few questions. What is the role I'm best suited for? If you've no previous experience, that's still fine. But just you're going to need to be realistic on, okay, well, what is the role that I'd like to do? Why is that? And just be clear on that. Once you've got that bit sorted, then we can start approaching the market. Then we can start getting organized. Then I can start designing a 7-point concept. Everything I talk about, I'll put on my website and share with everybody anyway. But I'd like to start working on some real examples, because I just feel that, there's a lot of information here that we can go through and it will be helpful. But unless you're really clear on who those decision makers are, you're just going to keep going with the masses, and it's probably going to end in frustration. Let's go the other way. Let's go with the 1%, and let's start being proactive, because that's how all the recruitment agencies make their money and grow their businesses. That's how companies, large corporations find these niche people, is by being proactive. So regardless to what an agency is or what anybody thinks of, the practice or the process, just be clear that they've got their end goal in mind at all times, where you should have yours. So if you can engage with an agency and you get value from that, I'm all for that. That's great. If they've got quotas and you can fulfill their quotas, great, go and do it. But if there's a gap there, it might not be worth you signing up for a load of agencies unless they've got the type of work that you think that you can be secured. So if you do decide to go to an agency, I'm all for that as well. But yeah, be clear on that. But also just ask the question to say, look, this is my situation. Would I be better going direct? And if they say yes, there's no point carrying on that conversation, because you could there could be a danger that you're one of the candidates that keeps checking in, and not getting anywhere, not getting any response. So that's the session today. So again, I'm adding an extra one in just because I think it's the most important one out of all of them. But hopefully by now you've got a good resume, you've got a good cover letter, you've got an idea and a feel about negotiating. You understand that an agency's kind of there to make profit and revenue. If they can be great people along the way, great, but they're very clear on their objective, they're very clear on the decision makers they're going for, and they're very clear on the types of candidates they want to get into those, to introduce those decision makers. Start thinking like that. Start thinking, okay, this is me, this is my list, this is how I'm going to do it. So I hope that was helpful. A bit different, but like I say, next week we'll start piecing that together. But my email address is info@carlrowlands.com.au. Feel free to send me an email with your details and what you're looking to achieve. If I get 26, I might not respond to every single one of them, but I'll do my best. But either way, have a think about what we've spoken about. Have a think about the end goal. Who are the decision makers that you need to speak to, and what are their job titles? Because once you're clear on that, this is going to flow a lot better. Anyway, that's all from me. I'll upload this onto my website tonight. I've been away for a week, so a little bit behind on a few things, but I'll get this up. I'll throw an extra session in next week to make sure we've got those templates everybody needs. And like I say, if there's any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for your attendance, and yeah, I'll speak to you on Wednesday. Take care. Bye.